the experience that I had to share, it was very interesting. It was related to the Catholic Church. It was related to the Catholic Church and a lot of these priests and things like that. It was very interesting. It was at one of the main, very large kind of churches. I don't know exactly where it was or what country, probably like Rome or one of them. But I walked in through the front gates. I walked in through the big front doors. And when I walked in, I could see the Pope standing there with one of his, geez, I'm not even sure. I guess like one of the side priests. I'm not really sure. I guess, yeah, like the priests. He was standing there with him, and he was holding his hand over a fire. And the fire was, it was interesting because it was like a liquid fire. It had that impression that it was like a fire, like a flame, but it was like holy water at the same time. They're so-called holy water. And the Pope was doing some kind of punishment to this priest because he did not agree with everything that was going on. And so he was kind of like trying to scar him physically as a form of punishment, to just sort of like torture him as a form of punishment. And again, they're wearing their traditional kind of white clothing with the red cap on. That's kind of their thing. And what was very interesting is the man that was being tortured, one of their priests that was being tortured, he was, of course, like kind of like screaming because he was in that agonizing pain. But all of the sudden, he actually started laughing. He actually started laughing, and he transformed into First, he transformed into a vampire, and that started when he was laughing. He opened his mouth. I could see his teeth, his little canines. They got really long, and the priest kind of jumped back. He got really scared. The Pope kind of jumped back. He got really scared, and all of a sudden, he ended up transforming actually into like a type of werewolf character, and sort of he was kind of threatening to kind of tear everybody apart inside of the church. So it was very interesting that they did not even realize the kind of shapeshifter that was in their midst. It was very interesting. And there was another part to it. Oh, yes. And that little flame-like thing that they were punishing him with, it was very interesting because it had a very dark presence over it. It was like, yes, it was considered their so-called holy water and all that stuff. And of course, we know all that stuff's very tap-lined and poisoned and polluted. But it had these strange symbols. It was like a bowl of that holy water, and it was, again, like kind of like a liquid flame, but it had this red ring around it, and it had these red symbols, and it was glowing bright red. So it almost gave the impression of being like something very dark, very kind of lower astrally inclined. It was very kind of dark, and they were using that to kind of punish him, almost like doing a kind of a ritual on him. So it was very interesting. And who knows, they might have even transformed him into this creature, but that was the experience that I had.
Okay, so usually around the Pope are the cardinals. They are the other priests. They're called the cardinals. And so this is to where they were, one of the cardinals had his hand over this flame and was supposedly being punished. Is that it? So there's like this, maybe this little table or something, and there's a flame on there, or the flame's coming out of something. He's got his hand over it. Is that it, Jeremy?
Yeah, the cardinals. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he's got his hand over it. So I'm just kind of seeing it as there's the cardinal there. So is this individual, does it look like, so he's not being held by anybody or anything, he's volunteering to put his hand over the flame? Is that the idea?
Oh no, the Pope himself was holding his hand over the flame while two other cardinals were holding him. So he was being kind of like tortured.
Oh, so he was being held and forced to put his hand over the flame.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So at first he's yelling and screaming. I'm imagining that, I'm seeing it as that, he's doing it horizontally over the flame, like you do, and it's hitting the palm of his hand, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So, but at first he's screaming.
Yeah, he's screaming and hollering, and he's kind of like sweating. You know, he's kind of got that.
Yeah, go ahead. And you don't have to keep muting. And so then he is, all of a sudden, he starts laughing.
Mm-hmm.
He starts laughing. Okay, and then he starts to transform. What does he do? Open his mouth or something? Or his fangs just get bigger with his mouth closed?
Yeah, so as he starts laughing, because I'm standing there watching the whole thing. As he's laughing, he opens his mouth, of course, and I can see his teeth. And my kind of view zoomed in, and I could see his canines get really long, like a vampire's.
Yeah, kind of like Dracula and Von Helsing when he starts to laugh and all of a sudden his teeth get bigger. Um, okay, and then he transforms into a werewolf.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the Pope kind of steps back. Do the other two guys let him go, or are they still holding him?
Well, as he's transforming into the werewolf, of course, he's kind of like ripping out of his clothes, and his face kind of protrudes like that. They're not able to hold him. They kind of jump back themselves. And he was kind of threatening to kind of tear up the whole place.
How interesting. And so, and basically that was it. Was there anything else?
No, that was it. It ended with kind of a frontal view of him transforming into this werewolf, and he looked upset. Like again, he was gonna tear everybody a new one.
Okay. So, it's very, very interesting. So, because again, I'm a little surprised that the Pope jumps back because it should know about all this. So, uh, what's kind of going on here, what I see is that there's resistance there in the Catholic Church. And the example of the individual transforming, in other words, whether it's a werewolf or whatever, he's not going along with the program of the Vatican, you see? So, of course, the personal self is going to come out first. And so they're all associated with the vampires and the shapeshifters, whatever. That's how they get there. Just like in politics, you don't get there unless you're evil. And so I would say that the Pope jumped back because he was kind of surprised that this individual is resistant, either one way or the other, according to whatever. So again, the experiences that you had shared yesterday about the Pope stepping aside. So again, we'll see how this comes out because again, every moment is free will, but there is some kind of resistance there. So let's just say from the experiences so far that the Pope is willing to step aside and let us go forward, but all of a sudden you got somebody in there that's not. Okay, so again, there's a confrontation here going on, which is understandable because not everybody's going to agree. And it happens anywhere in communities, tribes, gangs, whatever. It happens all the time. All of a sudden, not everybody agrees. So we'll just kind of see what happens as this. It's, just like Netflix, it's an episode at a time. So this is part of the adventure too. So we'll see what this resistance is all about. And again, the fire, the punishment, the fire represents, it can represent the idea of, hell and damnation. Okay. And so this individual, he's just laughing. At first he's playing along, but then he's just laughing. It's like, it's all a joke. This is all a joke. These ideas mean nothing to me. You see, and that's the symbols in the fire or whatever. It's just the old nonsense that they've conjured up to make people believe that it's something, this holy fire or whatever, and it's really nothing at all. It's all a joke. So again, there's some resistance there, good or bad or whatever. So in the X-Men, the Wolverine's the good guy. So we'll see, won't we? And also in Underworld, the werewolf guy was the good guy too, but he got caught up in things. But anyhow, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. So, okay, that's cool. That's cool, Jeremy. You're fortunate you get these. Thank you so much. Yeah.